Hey guys, welcome back to KevinWilsonSBC. I just want to say this video has been a huge challenge because we've had a tremendous amount of corruption with our SD card and our GoPro. I have lost hours of footage of in the shop when we were actually confirming the squareness of the Studebaker chassis, setting up the 4-link bars, weighing the car and everything. However, I have gone back and tried to capture some of the lines that we put down on the floor for the chassis squaring, how we went about it, how we hung the plumb bobs. I have actual video footage of that. I'm probably going to have to do some voiceover work with the video to make that make more sense. I just want to say that this video will cover how we squared and confirmed the squareness of the chassis, how we set up the 4-link bars, what instant center did I end up with, how did it turn out, what is the weight of the car with me in it, and how did we do the preload. I actually have a little section in here where I'm videoing the scale weights, the 4-corner weights, and I have Dad use the upper right 4-link bar to move some weight around, and you're going to watch the scale move in real time as he moves the upper 4-link bar one flat, and I will cover that in this video towards the end, so stay tuned. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for all that you do to promote the KevinWilsonSBC YouTube channel. I don't take that lightly. Thank you for supporting me with purchasing the little round vinyl stickers on my website. Those all those things help for me to continue doing what we do and continue covering some of the cost it takes to do this channel. Let's jump into the 53 Studebaker and let me do some voiceovers and explain exactly what's going on. And here very soon we will be getting the car out to the track. We will video all of that. I want my dad to see the car run, and let's see how well the chassis works on the 53 Studebaker. Let's go. One of the most critical parts of ensuring your chassis is square is finding a front, a middle, and a rear center line reference point. What I'm showing here is my front frame center line is 14 inches. So I have a plumb bob hanging down, and I'm using this yardstick to show the plumb bob is hanging at 14 inches. Now I will use this plumb bob, a plumb bob in front of it, a plumb bob in the middle of the chassis, and at the rear of the chassis to lay down a blue chalk line that we hold tight underneath each plumb bob, and then snap the blue chalk line to the garage floor. That's what you're seeing here. Let's take a quick moment and cover the string method that I'm using here. I did a video on this before, but let's talk about this method real quick before we go further. The important part of this method is confirming that your 4-link chassis brackets or ladder bar chassis brackets, whatever chassis cross member you're wanting to confirm, you want to confirm that it is truly square. So in this drawing, if you look at the front of the car and the very rear of the car, you see 2 plumb bobs. Now I had more plumb bobs than this, and I had a plumb bob towards the middle of the car, just in front of the rear end, and at the end of the car. So I had 4 total plumb bobs to find the center line of the Studebaker chassis. And then I used a string and some chalk and a screwdriver to make about 12 inches long to make my arcs in the center of the chassis, the 2 arcs on the right side and the 2 arcs on the left side of the chassis. And that is what I use to draw my line horizontally across the chassis. So from that line, I could then hang a plumb bob from my chassis 4-link brackets down close to the concrete floor and measure from those plumb bobs to that horizontal cross line and confirm how my chassis brackets were square or not. Let's take a quick look at how that video looks, and then you can see for yourself how this looked. Once again, this is not the original footage, but this footage still shows the story and helps you understand how this process works. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, here we are under the car, and these are the plumb bobs hanging from the 4-link chassis bracket bottom hole. the hole closest to the ground. Here you have a good view of the blue center line chalk line, and here you can see the two arcs I made off of the blue center line using a standard length string for both arcs on both sides of the car, and then both tape measures are laid out across that string as a reference to each plumb bob on the left and right rear of the car. These measurements are what I'm using to make sure that 4-link chassis brackets are square. Forgive me for this shaky video, but I wanted to try to show what I was doing with the string method. There's a plumb bob at the rear of the car so that I could capture the center line with that blue line from the front to the rear. Once again, there's my white cross center line that I'm using for the tape measure. Here's the two arcs. I made a mistake on one of the arcs, so you just start over and draw your arc again. But there's the arc where you use the center line. And here you got a quick view of the measurement. And what I'm happy to say is that I was only 1/16 of an inch off from left to right. And guys, 1/16 of an inch is very, very good. I will take that for sure. I've seen chassis up to 1/4 of an inch off here. But because of this, we were able to verify the squareness of our brackets. Here, I'm just showing you how I hung the plumb bob through the very bottom hole to the ground to make sure that those bottom holes were square and the chassis brackets are welded correctly square to the frame. Let's pause for a moment and let's use this scale example. I've got a video getting ready to show where I have Dad shorten the upper right 4-link bar 1 flat, 1/6 of a turn. And I want you to watch the left rear and right rear numbers, which in this video they're 652 and 624. I want you to see what 1 flat of a turn does and how much weight it moves from side to side. So let's go ahead and let this video roll, and you watch what happens when you shorten the upper right 4-link bar 1 flat. Real quick, if you look at the upper 4-link bar with it going down from the rear end to the chassis, if you were to shorten the upper bar, it's going to pull that side of the rear end down, moving weight more to that tire. If you were to lengthen the upper bar because of that downhill rake, it's actually pushing that tire up, which tilts the rear end down to the other side. So with that, it's very important to understand what lengthening and shortening to an upper 4-link bar does when the bar is going downhill from the rear end to the chassis, which most of the time, or almost every time for a drag car, that is the case. With that in mind, I'm asking Dad to shorten the right upper 4-link bar 1 flat so that I can move more weight to the right tire so that I can get to a 70-pound spread and have the left rear 70 pounds heavier than the right rear. So watch this video when Dad shortens the right upper 4-link bar 1 flat. All right, I got 624 on the right rear. Go ahead and shorten the right upper 4-link bar 1 flat. All right, that moved it to 642 on the right rear. Took weight off the left rear. Let me get in it, and then you write down the spread. Yeah. I'm looking for 50 to 70 pounds heavier on the left rear with me in it. Here, video it. Let me get in it. I'm interested in what the spread is. Now you can see with me in the car, the final weight is 2866. Now, what we just did is we moved 18 pounds from the left rear to the right rear just by shortening the upper right four-link bar one flat, which is 1/6 of a turn. I'm going to show you real quick, what do I mean by one flat? So I will show you that. If I needed to move more weight to the left rear, we would have lengthened the right upper four-link bar one flat at a time. I generally do not like to go more than 1 to 1.5 flats on moving weight around. If I need to do more than that, then we're going to start talking about rear steer. So you can see the weight of the car with me in it is 2866. The weight of the car without me was 2613. I went around and stood on all 4 scales before we started this process, and all 4 scales said I weighed 253 pounds. The math adds up. This is the weight of the car, and I wanted you guys to see how the Studebaker finally weighed out.
$71.
What Dad is saying is we have 71 more pounds on the left rear than we do the right rear. And generally for a baseline, I'm shooting between 50 to 70 pounds more on the left rear with the rear end square and no rear steer to help compensate for the chassis twist as the left front drives the right rear down harder. I add a little more weight to the left rear to help compensate and drive the car straight. I get asked a good bit about what do I mean by turning one flat. If you look at this four-link bar, you'll see a hex 6-sided nut welded into the bar. When I say one flat, I mean literally turn the bar one flat tighter or looser, and that is 1/6 of a turn. So these bars move weight very quickly, and if you think about the upper bar coming from the rear end is higher coming down to the chassis, if you shorten the bar, it's going to pull weight to that side. If you lengthen the bar, it's going to push weight to the other tire. I'm just showing you the AFCO shocks that were on the car when I bought it. These are 7-inch travel shocks. I'm probably going to end up working and doing more valving in these shocks. I'm not sure yet, but I am going to try these shocks out and see how they do, because my Penske's on the 48 will not fit the Studebaker installed height. So stay tuned for that more in the future. Let's go over how I have set up the 4-link suspension on the rear of the Studebaker. Looking at this picture, I'm giving you every ounce of detail of the 4-link suspension. The Studebaker has a 120-inch wheelbase. We are almost 50-50 on the weight bias, front to rear weight distribution. With that, I have some severe challenges with the age of the rear end and the locations on the rear end. The holes on the rear end are almost 1.5 inches apart. So when you make a change on the rear end, it's a big change. I really need to get with Marilite Racing and get a rear end set up for this car that's more up to date. Let's leave it at that. But anyways, here's what we have. We have a 51 inch instant center length, and the instant center height is 7.5 inches, which puts me at 99.8% anti-squat. I would have preferred to be this length and height, but around 110 to 105% anti-squat. However, I do think this setup is going to work fine in the Studebaker for a big tire slick car. With that said, take a look at some of these angles I have. On the top bar, I have a little over a 13-degree angle down to the chassis, and on the bottom bar, I have just under 1 degree up to the chassis. However, I don't like my rear end bar spread. I'm really kind of further spread out on the rear end than I want. I generally shoot for 10 to a 10.5, maybe 11 inch spread on the rear bars. We'll get into that in another video. The important thing is, this is how the 4-link is set up on the Studebaker, and this is how we're going to take it out to the track and do some testing. Let me know if you think this is going to work. I think it's going to work, but tell me why you might not like this instant center configuration. One quick note on the pinion angle. The engine and transmission angle is 0.3 degrees down. The drive shaft is 0.2 degrees down to the rear end. So I have the pinion angle 2.2 degrees down, so that on the hit it rotates up 2 to 2.2 degrees and levels out with the transmission and engine center line. Hey guys, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you for all your support once again. Remember, we have the same motor out of the 48 Ford going into the Studebaker. We have not changed anything on the motor. We are using the same converter out of the 48 Ford. However, the Studebaker has a power glide with a 1/6/9 first gear ratio, and we have a 457 gear in the back. We're running the same 32-inch tall slicks that we had on the 48 Ford on the Studebaker. I am very excited about the weight distribution, about the lower center of gravity, and the total vehicle weight with me in it. The 48 Ford was about 3,500 pounds with me in it, and you can see the Studebaker comes in at 2,866 pounds with my butt in it. I'm excited to get it out and go do some testing. I'm excited for my dad to see this car finally make some passes. Just remember this. We're making these videos, we're doing all of this work to accomplish 3 things. We want to go fast, we want to go straight, and we want to be safe. Have a good night, guys.